So there's a fair amount of stoicism, I think, in that generation of like if they were going through stuff, they didn't share it with us. I tell people that when I went back as an adult to Newark to see where we lived, the building had been condemned. Like it was slums, and we saw a lot of things in Newark that a child should never see, really. But they they shielded us from, like, say, financial issues. Um, I think life was very hard for them, but they wouldn't have wanted us to know that, right? Because it's not your children. I think in their mentality, your children should not bear the brunt of what you're going through. Um, and there were all these like cultural differences that we were encountering. I remember the first time my friend Marie invited me to a slumber party, and I was like, "What is that?" And then she explained, and then I went home and I told my parents, and my mother was like, "What? No, you're not sleeping at anybody's house. What is that?" In their world, you don't go to anyone's home except unless they're cousins. So I missed out on some like typical childhood experiences because my parents couldn't understand what this new world was all about. Um, and I think there was a generational gap, but there was also a cultural gap between us where I was becoming more and more American and they were, very much Cuban. And so that cultural friction did not help, especially because I was so young. And, as I tell people, it's not like one day I said, "Oh, I'm so tired of being Cuban, let me change and be American." It's just a natural evolution when you're 6 years old and you're brought to this country.
Right, right. Did your parents thought of themselves as Cubans in the United States, or did you hear, I mean, you were still a small child, but growing up and becoming a teenager, then an adult, how do you think they identified themselves?
Oh, absolutely Cuban. I remember many a time where they would say, "Esos Americanos," right? Those Americans, like, this is who we are, this is who they are, othering, really. Um, Particularly with gender, I had a lot of issues with gender differences. And, I remember one time saying to my mom that at Marie's house, they were having hot dogs for dinner. And she was like, "What? That should never be a thing." Esos Americanos. Well, that's the way they do it, but that's not the way we do it. And particularly with, I have the firstborn in my family is a boy, and as you know, maybe in Cuban culture, they're not accustomed to doing housework. So when I went to my friend, I don't know if I've told you this story, but when I went to my friend's house, Marie and her family, her parents were of Polish descent, but I would say they were, very much Americanized. And her name was Marie, and my mother could never, like, it was always Maria,
Right.
Maria, Maria, Maria. And then I went to Marie's house one day, and she and I were making our way through the house to the back of the house where her bedroom was, and I saw her brother appearing to clean a toilet as we passed the bathroom. And I said, "What is he doing?" And Marie said, "Well, he's cleaning the toilet. That's his chore this week." And I was like, explain this word chore to me. What is that? And she said, "Oh, well, we each have chores and every week we trade off and then we get an allowance." And I was like, I love this system. Because until then, I was doing everything for my brother because he's not allowed to do anything. And so I went home and I explained this word to my mother. And she said, "That may be the way they do it there, but that's not the way we are." So there was this like constant struggle to reinforce we are different. This is our culture. And it's fine that they do it differently somewhere else, but not here.